Please speak completely honestly, is what he said for me to ask me to convey to you all. Yes.
That was a very moving film, to say the least, for not able to find the right words that would do it any justice. But my question would be for those that have not completed that journey. What is it that is your struggle? What is your barrier? What is the obstacle that prevents you from completing the journey that his life was for you to complete? I mean, it's clear that his work was for the liberation of everyone he came into contact with. And so for those who was not able to, what is it?
That's a great question. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. That is an important question. My first response is that everything that he did during his lifetime was for all beings in all time, forever. So not just for me, who happened to be alive at the same time and in his immediate sphere, so the journey, in my personal journey, but I feel that in a sense it's not even really about me, because he talks so much about the presumption of identification, that this is Eileen on her journey to achieve something. And I feel when you're talking about the greatest obstacle is the presumption of, and it comes up all the time, despite all of his instruction and his grace, that the presumption of being a separate self. And he's given the means to understand that gesture, as he says, of the self-contraction, of separation, and to not only to be drawn to him through my devotion to him, my recognizing him as the divine being, to not struggle with what is it that I'm doing? Why aren't I there yet? Because that, as he said, reinforces the sense of Eileen on a search. So it's a great question because it's kind of a mystery as well. He doesn't give a technique, he doesn't give a method, he gives disciplines, and he gives devotional practices in which the forgetting of the separate self is magnified and his grace comes through. But if I were to actually say the obstruction in my case, it's probably the universal. It's presuming I am an ego, presuming I am a separate self, and believing that somehow I'm going to achieve enlightenment. I'm going to become realized. And as he says, it's when the self is so completely forgotten. He once said humorously that in that moment of enlightenment, you're the last one to know because you've been so self-forgotten. And, but also I just wanted to express too that it's not just, for this group of people or those of us present time with him. And was also, I felt expressed, and certainly in my own feeling, is since his passing out of his physical body, the intimacy with him has magnified. The feeling him present, the feeling him in my life, my giving over more and more to him. At first, certainly, there was the loss of his physical form, of his being. And I think we all, as a community and a culture, went through that grieving time. But he is beyond the body. He is reality and the truth of that, which is available to everybody. But again, back to your question, so what is it in all of us, that prevents that? So.
Yeah, if you think in the big picture, that sense of doing this bodily thing repeatedly, so that we do this life and then we rest and we come back and we do another life without knowing what this life was. And we have been doing that separation, that sense of separate being, feeling we are separate for who knows how long. And so that habit, that pattern of separation is, as Adida described it, held deep. And to therefore come to another understanding about this, the prior unity of everything, and that we all arise only in consciousness, then that in some senses, as you said in the film, it's just a different understanding or comprehension of everything. It's just a twisting of that view, and yet it changes everything. But we have to undo that lifelong and lives-long pattern of feeling we are separate, and that takes work.
I might just add that there's so many ways to answer that question. And one way to answer it is to say nothing at all. There's nothing at all that's obstructing realization in this moment. Nothing. It's right here, it's right now. It's perfectly given. Just acknowledge that. What Adida said in 1974 has always stayed with me. And this is a quote from him from one of his early books. He said, the devotee, a piece at a time, becomes aware of the perfection that the Guru has already generated in his or her case. It's already happened. It's already happening. And Adida came into this world to do a particular kind of work, a grace work for all beings. Gurus come for that purpose. They just to give. And he didn't leave the body, and it took him a lot of work not to do that, as you can see from the film, until he was completely satisfied that that work had been accomplished. And so having accomplished that work, a spiritual opportunity of the most extraordinary kind is available to everyone, absolutely. And all that's required is that you recognize him by grace, him meaning the divine person, and also that you respond. That's it. And the rest of it is the illusion. So if you put your attention on what's the obstruction, you've misplaced your attention. You're already now in the self-contraction, and it looks like there's something you need to do. There's nothing you can do. nothing you, the illusory you, can do about the situation that you presume yourself to be in. That process is his work, to undo that. And there's nothing you can do about it, except to be aware, by grace, of just turning one's attention, one's feeling, one's love, in every moment, to him, and allowing him to reveal truth, reality, love itself, love, bliss, happiness, conscious light, as he will. That's the way I would answer your question.
Yeah,
and there's many, many other things that could be said about it, because it's a beautiful question. But like all questions, he said, the question is really, questions themselves are in the form of a problem, or some kind of, underneath that question is a presumption of difference, of separation. And that's what we all get stuck in. I mean, we're not alone. Everybody gets stuck in that, where you presume that you've got to do something about the problem that you see as life, as reality, as your own personality, or your own limitations, or everybody else's limitations, which you're completely familiar with, you know. And that's just not what it is. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is this, and this is why the film was named as it is. What's happening here is indivisible conscious light. That's what's happening. And the rest of this is just a kind of superficial hair on a peach. It means nothing, you know?
Okay. Forgive me, but I just would like to engage, if that's okay.
Sure.
You spoke about this habit that
Mm-hmm.
we've gotten into of coming back over and over and over again. And not to dispute, I cannot dispute that this is all something other than what I'm experiencing. And so you said that requires work. Could you expound on that?
Yeah, well, the work was something of what Anthony was speaking about. It's what happens I'll speak personally, as I study Adida's work and his revelation, there's a sort of constant awareness that he is revealing to me that pattern, and I begin to see the pattern more and more. And part of our process, as Anthony was saying, is to give our attention, be attracted. He is attraction, because when you find this ultimate truth, it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that you're enlightened. It means that you're still a pattern. And I was going to say, as part of Anthony's response there, you give your attention to him even in the moments where you're having a conflict with someone or something that is perceived as the problem and you're having to bear down on it. Even in that moment, you're giving your attention to him and allowing him to resolve the circumstance. But that act of giving attention is a real requirement, because you want to indulge your emotion in that moment and, do what you have to do, fight it out, whatever it is, respond in whatever it is that you feel. But to transcend that and see that and understand that and go beyond that is practice. It's practicing a new pattern, a different pattern.
Tapas.
Yeah, lots of heat. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful questions. Anybody else have a comment or question?
Yes. First, thank you very much for presenting this wonderful film. I appreciate the long-term effort it went to making the film. I know a little bit about the film myself, so I can truly appreciate the effort that it takes. What I want to say is that I want to affirm two things that Adida has said, what his whole life has been about. Number one, the notion of bright, right? In fact, from a biophysical basis, all of us, every being is born in light. That's our fundamental identity, is that. How do I know that? Because I went to a summer school in Germany in 2000 with about 20 or so people. And there was a person by the name of Fritz Albert Popp. You can find him online. And he's developed instruments that can actually measure real light that our brains, our hearts, all our bodies emit. You know, from the palms of our hands, infrared light.
Yeah.
And that's been known for thousands of years. Many cultures have known that, but we kind of thought it was a metaphysical reality, not reality itself. In fact, when those 300 million sperm coalesce around that egg, and the one that penetrates, a burst of light is given off. That's measured. Northwestern scientists have actually filmed that. The second thing is, since we're all light, right, the problem is we're not conscious light. And that's the most profound, fundamental thing that he said, is that, yes, we're that, but we're not conscious of that. And that's the goal of anyone's spiritual practice, no matter what flavor it happens to be, is to become that, and to know that, and to live that, and transmit and share that with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Anyone else? No. Yes.
Oh, she's back.
Who? Again.
You
again?
Okay.
I was just going to make a comment, and I was going to say that I really appreciate the work that was done in bringing the film forward. It is what you call palpable. I could feel it. And then I noticed what Adida was saying. You know, this is the universal truth of many mystics, of what he was saying about our so-called human condition. And I really appreciated his story about narcissists, and how this is like a human experience, and how we miss the mark, and how he explained how we miss the mark. And I like the music that was in it, and I like the whole presentation of the work of how it was done. You could really feel it. It's very bright, vibrant, and you went through different phases, you know, the interactions with the initiates and just the way of life. It showed the evolvement of his work, you know, where nobody was getting him at first, so he came to everybody's level. But at some point in time, he had to get to the real work that he had come here for. And the radical change that happened, and how the people responded to that. So I just thought it was good work, you know, excellent cinematography, and I like the score of it, you know, especially when you got to the part where you were showing his art and the music that was underneath that. I thought that was outstanding, you know, because it added so much to the overall presentation. So I enjoyed it, and thank you all for allowing us to come and partake of this work that you did for your beloved Guru, and to share with us, because there's so many lessons in it as well. Just showing the evolution, so many lessons in there as well that I noticed. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Not that easy. I'm engaging because, as you know, I've been initiated by Bhagwan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in watching that film, it stirred up things in me.
Mm-hmm.
And making the best use of this opportunity that I have while he's yet in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Because in watching that film and seeing the sacrifice that was made, I mean, it was just, beyond words again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's my experience with Bhagwan over these years of all the sacrifice. And not knowing what it feels like to have to endure the absence of him in his body. My questions is geared to help me better appreciate this opportunity. So that's my intention here, that's my motive here, is to engage so that that time, of course, grace permits and I'm here. Hopefully not before. That I have taken advantage of this opportunity. So my motives for these questions is that, it's like the Bhagwan talks about effort and grace. And even though it wasn't worded in the film, there was this effort and grace going on there too as well, in those disciplines. And so does that continue even though Adida is no longer in the body?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I appreciate very much what you're saying about making the most of this opportunity while Bhagwan is in the body. And one of the things for sure, that a lot of us felt was, who lived around him, that we failed. We failed test after test. And one can start to feel really bad, and especially, like you say, you see this sacrifice so much more objectively. And I know Ruchira Dhammakarna Sukapur has spoken to a lot of us who were around during the time and said, it's not about that. Just, it's this moment, and this moment, and this moment. And Adida used all of that to create his written teaching. And so it seemed like, he even said it, him coming down into our level, in a sense, was a lila that wasn't how he would be most effective. But his work that he was able to take from that time, and from all of us being so resistive, he was able to really create and write his teaching. So it wasn't like a total loss. And, for me to look back and just like, or things I said or what I did, I can feel really bad. But it's not about that. That was done, and I think for all of us, So whatever is happening in the moment now, whatever happened in the past, it's always about present time and the next moment and the next moment. And but taking that very seriously. And
as seriously as you possibly can, in the moment. And that moment will vary constantly. But, Haridas said that the life of the Guru is the equivalent to the gestation of a baby in a mother's womb. And the passing of the Guru is the beginning of the life of that being. And so the exponential possibility of the teaching and the revelation, once it has occurred, is now a sort of a growing thing and an emerging thing. And it took again personally, it took a while to appreciate that Adida's presence is still palpable, tangible, absolutely felt. And, you know, again, our concept of being separate and him having gone and therefore not being present is absolutely wrong. It's not the fact at all. In fact, you know, he can be felt in every moment, and it's just a question of, again, turning, giving the attention. And so that while Bhagwan is still alive, you give as much of your attention as you possibly can, and then the rest will be grace.
And your love.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Love. Yeah.
So Bhagwan Raj is going to come and speak shortly, very shortly. I just wanted to give anybody else an opportunity to give you a response.
Yeah.
Just mention the key word, I think, and that's love.
Mm-hmm.
The development within of the love that we have. We were loved first by the Master, and by being receptive to that love, we begin to see that that's all there is, that is the key element of moving forward with our internal spiritual growth, really being conscious of that love as much as we can, moment to moment, no matter what we're doing. Because we have to put effort into any disciplines we've been given, but that love, I think, is the underlying force of what will help us to grow spiritually.
Beautiful, yeah. Well, let's, maybe everybody can take a little stretch break and kind of move around for a moment, and I'll let Bhagwan Ra know that we're ready for it. Okay? Thank you.
Are we going to leave?